Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by Fast Enough Garage today. We're going to be putting these on the car. These are going on the front cross member underneath the car. They're going to get welded in. And let me show you something about these that some of you guys have seen these before and you may not know about it. Well, if you've spent any time around the Camaro 5 forum, you may have seen these. These are flanges that get bolted together like this on your cross member. Here I just printed off this page of his instructions that he has on the forum. But something I didn't realize up front until I really started reading his instructions. I thought this was just a simple square, basically square hole, rectangular hole with some bolt holes through it. And it's really not. This has a taper to it. One side is smaller than the other, and that's because the steel of the cross member is also shaped that way. This cannot just go on any direction. It has to go on a certain direction when you go to tack weld it in. Well, if you've ever been under your car, you may have noticed this cross brace, this cross member here. It's directly under the oil pan. This is the front of the car up here. That's the back, just to give you an idea where we're at. And that thing goes all the way across. So you can't get the oil pan out unless you either pull the engine or you cut this cross member. Now, I've heard that you can cut this and still drive the car. It's obviously there for a reason, so we're not going to do that. But we are going to install these. Now, what these will do, if I can get a better angle, it's kind of hard to figure out where I'm at upside down. So we're going to be cutting right here. And these are going to get welded in. There's going to be two of them side by side, and they're going to be bolted together. And they'll be bolted together when we tack them in place, so they'll be pressed together. And they're going to be at a slight angle, so where it's about 5 degrees instead of exactly 90, it's going to be kicked out a little bit. And that way this bar, when you take out the bolts, can just move backward that way. You can just take it right out. And then you can, when you want to put it back, bring it back in until the flanges touch, put the bolts in. If you cut it an exact 90 degree, it's not going to work very well. You're going to be fighting the flange in and out because the flanges are going to be tight. But if you give it a little bit of angle each way, it'll be wider in the back than in the front. It'll just come right out. So I got these recently from a forum member, CFD. Anyway, it looks like it's CNC'd. And they do have a taper here. But no sharp edges. Looks like mild steel. Regular carbon steel. Very sturdy. 7/16. These are 1.5 inches. And a nylock is going to go on them beautifully all the way through. Once I get it all done, I'll put a little blue Loctite on it as well. But yeah, 7/16 coarse, 1.5 inches, grade 8. Make sure they're grade 8. Well, hopefully you guys can see this. So this is a cross member here on the car. Now the front of the car is here. The rear of the car is here. If you look at the dotted line, it's closer to the frame on this side than this side. So the point is, is right where that dotted line is where these are going to go, like that. So I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit, because this is what he's doing. Instead of having it 90 degrees to this portion, which is where he says he's measuring from, which would be like this, exactly perpendicular front and back, he kicks it out a little bit. And so if you can imagine this one being welded to the bar and then the other side being like this, when you unbolt it and you take the center section away, it's going to come away very easily. And that's why he puts the angle on it. And then when you bring it back, it's kind of hard to show, it will come right into line and you can bolt it right up. See what I'm saying? See how it falls away further you get back. Now what I have here, basically it's a digital compass, and you can zero it out. See, it's 0. I think you can see that. Woohoo! Hello. There you go. So anyway, it's 0. So as I open it, it'll give me degrees. Okay, that's 92. Really hard to get the angle here. I'm going to be using a cutoff wheel for metal, and there's nothing flammable in the garage. No propane, or there's no propane or anything that can catch fire, or gasoline. So I'm going to try this first. I've heard you can use a Sawzall. Guys have said it cuts really good. Of course, you'd have to have a metal blade. And yeah, we're going to try this first. Well, I cut the first side. Worked really well. This kind of popped down a little bit, and I would say that's normal considering the other side's still welded, and when you weld on something, things shrink and puts minor stresses on things. That's good. It went through very easily. It cut well with the angle grinder, with the cutoff wheel. Now I'm going to do the other side. When I used the cutoff wheel, I made sure that, you know, it was straight up and down. I wasn't going off at a weird angle, because you basically want the cut to be straight up and down so your flanges are nice. But yeah, it worked good. Let me show you the other side now. So I am using hearing protection and also a face shield, just because of all the junk that comes off of these. This happens to be for masonry. So this is what you want. Okay, so there we have it. So now we just have to, this top portion here, we need to grind that back about 1/4 of an inch on both sides, because when the flange goes on, you're going to weld the inside of that. I'll show you when we get to that. So here you can see how well the flange fits. It wasn't tight, it went right over it, no problem. It does have a little bit of space around on the sides, but looks good. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I painted the top of the Crossmember white. I went in about 1/4 of an inch and I painted it so I can see how much I'm grinding. Now, of course, if you have the engine out and you're doing this and you have all kinds of room, you don't have to grind the inside there. But that's what that's for, is so you can weld the inside to the flange, and then on the outside you can weld around here, and that way you get a good weld all the way around. But this will be bolted to the other one. It'll all be tacked up. Looks like it took enough off. It's kind of hard to get the grinder in there because the wheel's 4 inches around. Dear Santa, I would like a lift for Christmas. I have the room. I just don't have the right kind of concrete floor. Now to take off some paint. So it's the next day. I want to make sure that this is flat. So I'm gonna take a straight edge, put a straight edge on it, make sure it's not sticking out, and we're gonna tack this in place for now, and we're gonna do that on both sides.
I guess that's because it's trying to get ground. Let's see here. clean the ground a little better, but I got it tack welded on the
Okay. Alright, bolted it up. He got it tacked in there. Now we're gonna weld all the way around on the outside. Thing we had to remember to do is disconnect the battery before we weld it on the car. Otherwise, very good chance we'll blow the computer up, and probably a few other things in the car that's electronic. So hopefully I didn't have to disconnect the ECM with the connectors, because I didn't do that. Hopefully car starts and runs. Okay, so now that the center piece is fully welded, it was reinstalled into the car in order to make sure the flanges on the frame side of the car don't move while they're welded in place. So now the frame side is welded up pretty good, and this is in here. Now we're going to take this out and do a full weld on this piece and the inside of the top, and I'll show you that in a second. The welding is finished. You can see the bead on the inside at the top. So that's because you can't weld from here unless of course the engine's out, you could get to it. But so we have that weld, and then let me show you the other sides. On this side here, it's a little easier to see. You got a bead going around, all the way around, and then all the way around on this side, all the way around to the top and the inside of that top as well. So we're just going to clean this up and primer and paint, and same with the center section, and it should bolt right back up. Of course, we had to clean up the, we got a couple burrs, you know, a little bit of splatter on the flat part. We did have to touch up with the grinder, but this is all a nice flat surface. Checked it with straight edge, and it's all flat and should be able to bolt back together, but I want to paint everything first. I think that would be smart. Well, it's all welded up. Got some self-etching primer and hit everywhere with the self-etching primer. Gonna put some black gloss on it. I went ahead and put some primer also on the flanges on the bottom of the car, making sure I got the top as well. And gonna paint these gloss black, kind of get them to match. Same with the flanges underneath the car. And when they're completely dry, we're gonna go ahead and put them together and tighten it up. Got the black on there. We're gonna let this dry, and then yeah, we'll just reassemble it. It's all that's left. Got the ears painted on the car, and it's looking good. Be sure to don't forget to paint the ground on the car that you had to grind away. when you welded. We got the bolts in, and I don't even have nuts on these bolts yet. I just pushed them in, and this bar is solid. It's not even rattling in there. And that was even before I painted it. It did that before I painted it, so it's not like it's the paint keeping it from rattling. But yeah, the bolts are a little tight. They took a little bit to get in, but not bad. So yeah, I'm just gonna put the nut on the back side, tighten it up. I got to look in the book for a torque spec. It's a nominal torque spec for a 7/16 course, whatever that is. I don't have it off the top of my head, but Guten tight would probably work. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video today. Thanks for coming by the garage. I got more work to do, so we'll see you on the next video.